Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're going to be taking a look at this review copy that I was sent of the Nameless Grimoire, which is a spell and magic supplement designed for the Nightmares Underneath, which is a RPG book that I reviewed recently. You can check it out right up there. So this is created by Johnstone Metzger, and it has a huge number of extra magical classes. It has some items, but the vast majority of it is hundreds of new spells that you can use with the Nightmares Underneath. And because this is an OSR-ish game, the spells are very easily adaptable to any other OSR-like game. So a great supplement for just adding a ton more magic to your game. Let's take a look inside and see what we get here. As always, links will be down in the description below for if you would like to check this out for yourself. I believe this is a lulu.com edition. And in the interest of full disclosure, in the direct inspirations, we do have Maze Rats by me. So that's really nice of him. I appreciate that. And you'll see a little bit later how Maze Rats, I think, influenced this a little bit. I thought it was really cool. So again, we have the beautiful art that we see in the Nightmares Underneath, where it's clearly public domain images and paintings and photos mashed up with designs through Photoshop to create this beautiful collage-like effect that really makes it feel like an arcane grimoire. At least it does to me. A few notes on using this with other games, and a summary of how magic works in the game right at the beginning, in case you want a recap from the Nightmares Underneath. It's expanded a little bit and made a little bit more detailed, but it's basically the same rules. We have a quick reference guide here, which is always really great when an author takes the time to summarize everything on a nice 2-page spread where you can quickly reference it. I would probably photocopy this and print it out for spellcasters so they have it right at their fingertips. Starting off with the actual content, we have magical devices to plague and delight. We have some rules for creating your own magic items, some general effects that they might do, and with a couple examples. For example, anti-magic quicksilver, demon-haunted urns, good luck charms, harmonious harp, and some really great tables here for creating your own spellbooks. If you're a wizard, you're probably going to want to have a spellbook. You might as well customize it and make it packed with personality. So for example, the author could be a cultist. Its form is a papyrus scroll. It's long. Its special qualities is that it is fragile or falling apart. And what kind of writing? It's written in an alien or inhuman language. So this could be your spellbook, or it could be one that you find. Reminds me a little bit of some of the spellbook generators that I think I saw in Hubris. That was another book that had some good spells and spell books. We have a wealth of eldritch lore. So the purpose of the Nameless Grimoire is to expand the amount of magic and the supernatural in your campaign, to make it more expansive and more detailed, and the new rules in this section are the core of how it does that. So it gives us some new heritages, which is a way to add NPCs that are non-human and have other weird lineages into your Nightmares Underneath game, which is more or less human only by default. We have some new professions, a whole bunch of new patrons, to have your cleric type characters, and of course your massive tome of spells. So marks of heritage. This is a great little chapter here that can be easily adapted to almost any fantasy RPG. So rather than having just a actual race that you tack onto your character, what you do is you say, I want to have angelic heritage. You can just add one of these special abilities, and it usually has a advantage and a disadvantage, so it more or less balances out. But it adds a lot of flavor if you want to add that sort of thing. You have arachnoid lineages, courtly backgrounds, demonic heritage, if you want to play that type of character, dwarves, elementals, elves, goblins, and so on. So you might have something like goblinoid lineage. The Fairy's Grudge. You get advantage on all attack rolls against other fairies, but disadvantage to attacks against golems and the undead. So it's a simple little thing that adds a little bit of flavor. And most of them are mechanically simple enough that, as I mentioned, you could port them into other games. We have some new classes that you can take. Avatar. You can be a battle wizard, a blood caster, Some really great art here. It's hard for me to tell whether this art is new and commissioned by the author or whether it's taken from other stuff, but it looks like new art, if I had to guess, and it looks really good. I'm generally impressed by the design sensibilities throughout both of these books. You can be a Chaos Mage, a Druid, along with a wide variety of new Druidic powers. You can be a Mystic, a Shadow Sneak, if you want to be a Thief Wizard type character. This would probably be my favorite type of character to play, along with a variety of shadow powers. And a Spellslinger or a Witch. You have random wizard equipment, because when you're getting your wizard up and running and you want to load him up with cool wizard stuff, you don't want to go shopping and take one item at a time. Like a lot of modern OSR games, you have a big chunk of items that you can roll up and grab right away and be ready to go. There's stuff like around, the 10 through 11 is going to be the most common stuff, but the stuff on the ends are going to be much less likely to be rolled because you have a 3d6 curve happening here. So, for example, on an 18, you have 1d6 books about a variety of confusing subjects, a signet ring, a small riding horse with a comfortable saddle, and sturdy saddlebags, and a songbird in a cage. You can get a couple extra things if you're a particular class. Patrons in whose service one might toil. So this really doubles down on what your cleric type characters are going to be. In this game, they're called cultists. You actually serve some sort of extra dimensional being, and it's really going to flavor who your character is, the kinds of abilities they have, and things like that. You have magic of the gods that you can serve. Asclepios, the healer, a benevolent healing deity, it looks like. The crawling chaos, so we have a variety of Lovecraftian-ish beings that you can worship or serve. The Dreamer in the Deep, obviously that's a Cthulhu reference. We have Mog Nogoth. And each of these has things like their alignment, the types of followers they have, how you join the cult of this particular being. You have aspects, and you have quests and signs. Some of them give you particular spells that they give you that really flavor you towards that sort of being. And some boons that you can get from being a cleric of that particular being. You have taboos, so things that are hindrances in some sense. So for example, this one, you can no longer cast, master, or memorize the spells of the enchantment and illusion schools other than message. You cannot produce the same effects through a miscasting. Roll again if the results indicate enchantment or illusion spells. Sacred geometry. I thought that was really neat, where you're actually following geometry, like almost as a concept. It's like the fundamental architecture of the universe. That's really cool if you want to be like a mathmomancer, whatever you call it, like a math wizard. A couple other ones. And then we have our giant book of spells. Here we go. All spells written in order. Nicely fits onto 4 pages. The layout of the book is really good in the sense that you can tell the author did pay attention to page layout and keeping concepts on 1 page at a time. That's really great. You rarely see that in big publications. It's almost always when a book is being put together by a team of like 1 or 2 people that you see attention to that sort of thing just being focused on. I found that really interesting. You'd think that larger companies would have a focus on this as well, but it's only when someone is really slaving over their own work that they start getting obsessive about how many pages it fits on. We have spell schools. So if you want to be a specialist wizard, that's a thing that you can be, but you're going to have to choose a rival school from the list of options. Breaking things down, we have abjuration spells. You get some particular signs that go along with that. You have air spells, alteration spells. These are broken down by school. Each of them has specific signs that go along with them. So, for example, if you are a darkness wizard, if that's what you want to specialize in, you might have something like the shadows cling to you more than to any other surface, making you look slightly darker and more menacing, but only enough to be unnerving. little flavorful stuff that makes you feel like a wizard from that particular school. Skipping ahead here, we have quite a variety of different schools that you can choose from. And then we come to the full random spell table. So this is designed as a D1000 table, though some spells take more than one number that's going to correspond to them. Having a table like this is just extremely useful because sometimes you just need a random spell. So it's important to have a table where you can roll that really quickly. And we have our spell descriptions. The vast majority of the book, the next, let's see here. How far does it go? Up to page 360 approximately from page 180. So we got hundreds of pages here of new spells. It's extremely thorough. That's one thing that I can say about almost all of Johnstone's books. They are thorough. He takes a concept and he mines it. He gives you tons of iterations. He covers everything. So it's a great compendium. It's a great resource. If you are going to create any sort of game that involves spells, this book just kind of covers everything. So it's a great book to use as reference or research when you're creating your own spells. And of course, if you just want to flesh out the spells of whatever universe you are in or whatever campaign that you are running. Let's look at a spell at random here. You get something like Fairy Kingdom. That sounds fun. Level 7. Lasts until dispelled. Range 1 location. This spell creates the illusion of a fully detailed location around you. The real location is covered up. Anyone entering experiences only your illusion. This illusion can cause fright, but no real harm. Food gives no sustenance, nor does fire shed any real warmth. The effect ends when you leave the location. That's a great fairy tale-like spell. Let's take another random one here. We have a variety of protection spells. Those all seem fairly straightforward. We have Sense Destiny, for example. The spell grants you a vision of one thing the target will do or be responsible for in the future if they are not stopped, or are usually shown their most important act or contribution to the world, or it might only be what will have the most impact on you. So some great spells for seeing into the future. You got just a huge variety of stuff. Speak with Waters, Summon Animal, Teleport Self. You got Tentacles, Truth Telling, Undead Repellent, Wall of Blades. You can be a wizard of any sort of variety and specialize in almost any school, and you could have a huge variety of stuff that you can use to really flesh that out. We have a couple new monsters. It's not really a full-sized bestiary, but we have, it usually takes one particular topic and then it gives you a lot of variety on that topic. So Arcane Servants, here's lots of different kinds of Arcane Servants that you can have. Basilisks and Cockatrices. We have Creatures of Death, so demon-type beings, and with some random tables for fleshing out what they would be like. We have Elementals, and then it breaks down air, earth, fire, frost, and so on. Golems of every type of variety. Nagas, Ophidians, Skeletons, Wyverns, and that's it. It just covers all of your basic, more magical type creatures and gives you a little bit more variety than the original book did. The appendices at the back are very classic Johnstone in that they give you a toolkit for making stuff of your own. So random antecedents, I wasn't totally sure what you meant by antecedents at first, but it's more like items that you would use to create potions, perhaps, magical substances. So for example, a dead ash tree sapling, or milk from a magic beast, or the charwoman's shadow. Lots of great little fairy tale objects that you might want to try and collect to make a potion. And treatment, for example, buried at night under a crossroads, then dug up at night a month later. So you can create these little formulas for weird things that people have to find. Random magic and spells. Here we go. I love spell generators, as anyone who knows anything about maze rats will tell you. So this has a extremely expanded and complete version of a spell generator. It has a lot more options than maze rats has, for example. You can create random items, monsters, and spells using these different formula, right? So you just plug in 3 things here, and it creates what you have. So we have aspects, which are basically adjectives. Let's make a random spell here. So for example, you might be first half, second half, common spell naming conventions, right? Aspect curse. So Pick a random aspect. Any one of these. The blooming curse, the breathing curse, the choking curse, and so on. A magic item might be aspect plus element plus item. So you pick an aspect like the feverish, and then an element. Let's skip ahead to elements here. The feverish mutation plus an item. So we get a random item here. Forms, items. The feverish mutation harp. Similar to Maze Rats, you're going to get some weird examples, but it's going to just fuel your imagination and giving you one thing after another that you can either tweak or use as is in your games. And rather than the D36 tables that I used, which were more compact, and I used them for the sake of speed, Johnstone has very thorough lists here, which are often D200 lists, is what most of these are. We have a random table for creating wizard names, because it's a wizard book. You're going to need to have a lot of wizard names. And some indexes at the back. So there we go. That is the Nameless Grimoire. It is one of the most thorough and complete magic supplements that I have ever run into. A great resource for any type of fantasy RPG that you might be running. Any game where you need lots of new spells, you need a huge magical resource, it's hard to go wrong with this. Even if you're not using this system specifically, the Nightmares Underneath, you can very quickly adapt the effects here into almost any type of game. So that's it for my review for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to check out the links in the description down below if you would like to get this for yourself. Before I go, I feel like I should really have a huge shout out to a couple of my patrons, including Colin Kahn and Son of Sofa Man. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. They're supporting us at the questing night level, which is a really high level of support, and I can't thank you guys enough. Join us next week when we will be looking at our next book, which is going to be Gathok's Vertical Slum, which is a far-out science fantasy setting for Swords and Wizardry, White Box Edition, and other classic games. It is an urban game, so similar to games or books like Vornheim, it fleshes out a weird city and gives you an enormous amount of material that you can actually use to make that thing happen. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time.